In France, Macron has been re-elected as French president. Hello, this is News Review from BBC Learning English. I'm Rob, and joining me today is Roy. Hello, Roy.
Hello, Rob, and hello, everybody. If you would like to test yourself on the vocabulary around this story, all you need to do is head to our website, bbclearningenglish.com, to take a quiz. But now let's hear more about this story from this BBC News report.
President Emmanuel Macron has pledged to unite France after he was re-elected for a second term. Mr Macron won 58% of the vote to see off a challenge from the far-right candidate Marine Le Pen. In his victory address at the foot of the Eiffel Tower, Mr Macron said he knew that many people had voted for him purely to stop his opponent.
So, Emmanuel Macron has been voted President of France for a second time. He won 58% of the vote against Marine Le Pen, a far-right candidate. He promised to unite France and said that he understood many people had voted for him to stop Marine Le Pen getting into power.
Yes, and you've picked 3 words and expressions from the news headlines about this story. What are they, please?
We have sighs of relief, big blow, and hinges on.
That's sighs of relief, big blow, and hinges on. Okay, let's have a look at your first headline, please.
Okay, so our first headline comes from Sky News, and it reads, French election. Emmanuel Macron's victory will be greeted by sighs of relief across Europe.
Sighs of relief. Relax after a serious problem.
So this is a 3-word expression. The first word is sighs, S-I-G-H-S. Second word, of, third word, relief, R-E-L-I-E-F. And it basically means to relax after a serious problem or event.
Now, I'm familiar with that word sighs. I think we all do it when we sit down and we relax. We sigh. We make this noise, a sigh, don't we?
Yeah, it's like, So, very good. So basically what it is, it's an exhalation of air and it demonstrates a sense of relief. Now, we also sigh in other ways as well. It's not just about relaxing. We can also sigh sometimes when we're bored or frustration. It's quite an emotional, it's quite an emotive noise that we make. Now, the word relief basically means to end a period of pain. So, for example, if you've got a headache, you may take some kind of medication to give you pain relief.
But in this headline, we mustn't take this literally. We're not hearing lots of people going, are we?
No, we're not. It's basically used as an expression to say that after a serious problem or a situation, a negative situation, we can now relax.
And what other situations might we give a sigh of relief?
Well, I can give you a really good personal example. Now, many of our viewers know that my wife and I, we were separated by the pandemic. During the pandemic, my wife is from Brazil and my son is also from there. And for well over 2 years, nearly 3 years, we were apart due to the COVID pandemic. Finally, my wife received her visa and we have been reunited. And after that terrible time, when my wife and child arrived at the airport, I both literally and figuratively gave out a huge sigh of relief because I was suddenly like, it's over.
Okay, let's hear that noise one more time. Fabulous. Okay, let's have a summary. In our 6-minute English programme, we've been talking about mental health in the workplace. It's a big issue. How can people watch that video again, please, Roy?
All you need to do is click the link in the description below.
Okay, let's move on to your next headline, please.
Okay, so our next headline is an opinion piece and it comes from CNN and it reads, Opinion. Why Macron's win is a big blow to Putin.
That's big blow, large, unexpected, negative event.
Okay, so this is a 2-word expression. First word big, B-I-G. Second word blow, B-L-O-W. And it basically means an event that has a large and sort of devastating effect.
Now, blow often refers to the act of blowing with air like that. Is that what this expression has something to do with?
A lot of air-related expressions today, apparently, sighing and blowing. But now let's talk about this idea of blow. So when somebody blows air at you, it hits you and it makes an impact. Another way in which we use blow that will reinforce this idea is in something like fighting. In fighting, you have punching. Now, recently there was a boxing match in which Tyson Fury won against Dillian White, and his final punch was, or his final hit was an uppercut, and it was the final blow. So we use that idea of blow for impacts, especially related to punches and air.
Right, but here in this expression, big blow, we're not referring to air or to punches, are we? There's no boxing involved.
No, we're not. So what we're talking about here, and let's focus in on that idea of an impact. You're talking about an unexpected event that has a devastating effect, and it's a massive impact.
Okay, and I'm just thinking back to last year's Euros when our country's team, England, lost at the last minute. That was a big blow, for us at least, wasn't it?
That was a massive blow, but well done once again to Italy.
Okay, let's have a summary of that expression. We just mentioned last year's Euros, the big football tournament where England unfortunately didn't win, but Italy did, and we talked about that on News Review, didn't we, Roy?
Yes, and all you have to do to watch that episode is click the link in the description below.
Great. Let's move on to your next headline, please.
Okay, so our next headline comes from The Telegraph. Now, it's important to note that this headline was released previously, a couple of days before the election. And it reads, "Why EU's future hinges on the French election result."
Hinges on. Depends on something happening.
Okay, another two-word expression. First word, hinges, Hinges. Second word, on, O-N. And it basically means that something depends on something else occurring or happening.
And if we take this literally, a hinge is that piece of metal that holds the door to the wall and lets it open and close.
Absolutely. Now, without those hinges, that door cannot open and close. So it is a vital thing for the door to function. And this is important in understanding what hinges mean. So without those hinges, the door doesn't work. And what we're saying, if something hinges on another thing happening, it won't work unless that other thing happens.
So in my life, I've got two children. They depend on me. I think they do anyway. Can I say that my children hinge on me?
No, you can't. Okay, so the way in which we're using depend on there, for example, children depend on their parents, is like rely on. So for example, they depend on you for things like supplying food and quite often money. The way we use hinges on is when we're talking about one situation or event is dependent on another situation or event happening.
Okay, so can we use this expression in everyday life?
Yeah, so let me give you a good example. You invite me to a party. I'm still waiting for that invitation. You invite me to a party, but I say, my coming to your party hinges on or depends on whether I get paid. So for example, without money, I can't come to your party.
Right, okay. We could also say the success of this programme News Review hinges on you turning up and presenting it.
Thank you very much for that. But I think it hinges on not just myself, but the whole team, you and everybody else that works at BBC Learning English. Without the team, our wonderful content hinges on the success of our fantastic team.
Yeah, and it hinges on having a summary. So here it is. Okay, Roy, it's time now for you to recap on the words and expressions we've discussed today.
Sure thing. We had sighs of relief, relax after a serious problem. We had big blow, large unexpected negative event. And we had hinges on, depends on something happening.
Now, if you want to test your understanding of these expressions, we have a quiz on our website at bbclearningenglish.com. And that's a good place to go to for lots of other learning English resources. And don't forget to check us out on social media as well. Well, that's all for News Review for today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.